Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. Cindy here from CLB Craft Creations with our first project for the holiday card series for 2017. I cannot believe that it has been almost a year since I've done a video and posted. I've been crazy busy with life, and I apologize that I haven't been out here. I do miss it, and I did want to get back and do my holiday card series. I had actually been looking forward to it and planning to do it all year. It's a little later than I had wanted to start, but I do have I have some projects coming up for you, and probably gonna have to release them, a couple of them per week in order to get them all done before we get too close to the holiday. So anyway, again, this is the first card that we're going to be doing. Thank you for sticking with me if you've been around, and we'll jump right on in. This card is actually going to use the Merry Cafe stamp set with the sentiment here. We're going to use a stamp set from our annual catalog, which is, we're going to use this stamp from the Ready to Pop. And on this card, it actually does use the holly leaves from the tags and trimming stamp set. I stamped those and then I die cut them out, but I'm going to change up the card we make on camera today and just use the framelits on some garden green paper instead. So we'll be using the two holly leaves that come in this set. Now this is a bundle, so if you are interested in getting this, I would definitely purchase both to save the 10%. So it comes with the tags and trimming, and then this is the trim your stockings thinlits. Yes, thinlits. So let's go ahead and jump in and get started. Our pieces are going to, our card base is actually a piece of real red. Instead of doing just a plain white card, we're going to do real red, which is cut at 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. Our interior piece is Whisper White, and that is cut at 4 by 5 1/4. Again, that's just going to go on the inside. Our outside pieces, we have a piece of Garden Green, which is cut at 4 by 5 1/4. And then we have a piece of Whisper White. This is actually not the piece I needed. Another piece of Whisper White, and this is going to measure 3 3/4 by 5, so that'll be that top piece. And I would recommend, if you were going to do this, to not waste this whole piece of Garden Green and do your die cutting with your holly leaves. I have actually already die cut my holly leaves just to save time and editing for myself. But yes, I went ahead and already die cut these if you were going to die cut versus stamping and then punching them out. I also have a piece of real red that I used. I'm not quite sure which size it is, but it's from the Layering Circles, and that is I really couldn't tell you which circle it is, but what I did is I stamped out my sentiments and then made sure that what I stamped was going to fit in my piece. Now my circle that when I stamp and cut is going to be 1 3/4. So I would imagine that this is probably a 2-inch circle. So you could, actually it might even be a little bit bigger than that, because I think the 2-inch circle punch was not big enough. So again, you could probably use a 2-inch circle and it would be just fine. But that is that, and then we're going to use some sequins as well and some glue dots. Our inks are going to be Garden Green and Real Red, and then we'll use some dimensionals and just snap. So let's go ahead and get started with our stamping. I always recommend, especially when you're using the Real Red ink, because it does tend to smear. I don't know what it is about red ink, but it just seems to smear no matter how careful you are. Now this is the interior piece, so I'm going to go ahead and stamp that, and since I can just let that sit aside and dry while I'm working on the other stuff, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to take the striped image and I'm going to ink that up. I should have a piece of scrap here. I don't think I have a scrap paper. Here we go, a piece of, just got a scrap, just so that I can make sure that I don't get my work surface all messed up. Okay, so we'll ink that up, and then I'm just going to line that up at the top. And I'm going to try and get the top edge as close to the top as possible. Just do that. I don't think I got that actually lined up at all. I didn't. It's going down, but that's okay. For you, when you do it, you'll be right on top of it, and it'll be much easier to line up. Now we'll do the same thing for the bottom. Of course, I'm using a white scrap, so it makes it even harder to see. Okay, there we go. That one's actually perfect. All right, so I'm just going to set that aside and let that dry. Now I'm going to bring in my smaller piece, which is the 3 3/4 by 5, and I'm going to, I'll ink up the whole image, but I'm going to come about 1/3 down, and I'm going to not stamp it all the way across. So it'll be some off and some on, and then you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a second. So I only went to part of, so just part of it. Now you could stop there if you wanted. I'm going to go ahead and ink this up again, and then I'm going to do my best to try and offset it, but line it up. I'm gonna have to get my head in here, move it down so I can see. I'm just going to offset the stripe and stamp again. So now I've got 2 rows. It kind of looks like washi, and they're every other, so we kind of offset that there. Okay, now I can go ahead and set that aside for a couple of minutes and let that dry while we work on the rest. So we're done with that one. I'm gonna go ahead and bring in my I had a scrap piece of Whisper White, which is what I'm going to use to do my punching. And we're going to do, actually it doesn't really matter, I've got the red out. So what I did off camera is I stamped, as you can see, I stamped my image, the cheer, in the garden green, and then I took my coordinating stamps and I laid them on top to make sure that the cheer was centered the way I wanted it, and then I put it on the block. So that's just a helpful hint when you're using multiple stamps and you want to line them up. And it just makes it easier. That way I don't have to worry about, is it going to be close enough? Is it not going to be close enough? But yeah, so I'm going to use that with the real red. So it'll be the Christmas and then a Happy New Year. I'm going to do that in red. And my ink pad is definitely in need of re-inking. So I'm going to stamp that close to the edge. Hopefully I've left enough room so I can get my punch in there. Okay, now we're actually done with the red ink. I'm going to bring in my garden green. And now I'm using the cheer. Again, this is from the Merry Cafe set. I love that set. It's just got a nice combination of sentiments. Okay, and now I'm just going to line that up in the center. Because these are clear, it makes it very easy. Okay, looks good to me. Get those out of the way. Now, did I do this? I may have actually used this on that. I don't know that this is going to be big enough. Oh, no, it is. Oh, good. So we will just center that up. And again, this is 1 3/4. Punch that out. So much easier than having to get my big shot out. I think that I actually used the die cut. I did. So that's a little bit too big for me. So what I did is I actually used the layering circles on my original. So this is actually what I had cut the white out, and then I used the next one up to do the real red. But I'm going to, so I'm not going to get my big shot out again, but you get the idea. So I'll go ahead and I've got this popped up on dimensional. Actually, I think I have it all popped up on dimensionals. Okay, and then I'm going to put just center that. And again, you would use a smaller, you'd use a bigger, this would be bigger, so you wouldn't have quite as much red. But I actually don't mind that. I think that actually looks pretty nice. Now, again, I mentioned that I had already die cut some of the holly leaves. So these won't have the white stripe in the middle like the stamped image does, but they're the same size. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use these. And I used 3. Maybe I'll put them, I'm gonna put some on the inside and then I'll put some on the outside. I just need to get my glue dots. Let's see. There we go. So we'll just put glue dot there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slide that under, and then I'm going to take 2 of the smaller ones. Do the same. Okay, and then I'll do 3 up here as well. Now these, I'm going to put the glue dot on the front because I'm going to be attaching it to the back of the red circle instead. So I'm going to do this one just a little bit different. And then I'm going to put, actually changing that up just a little. So I put 1 on the back of the red circle, and now I'm putting the other 2 small ones on top of the red circle. So I'm just tucking those in there. So you can't really, they look like they're underneath the underneath the white circle. So that's fine with me. I like that just the same. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get this stuff out of the way. Bring in my glue. This is going to be our outside piece. It's just going to go onto the front of our real red card. Very traditional red and greens. Okay, and I can bring in my Whisper White piece. Center that up on my card. All right, and we can go ahead and put the inside piece in. You could also put an inside sentiment on this if you wanted. Also be kind of cute if you actually had a little photo or something. If you wanted to make this into a photo card, you could just put a little photo right there in the middle. Okay, and now we're going to add this with dimensionals as well. So this is a bit dimensional, so if you didn't want to add all that dimension, you could easily just lay all that down without any of the dimension, and it would look just as nice. So I just put 4 on the back of that. Get these backers off. Okay, and now I'm going to just kind of have this in the center. And then I'm just going to take some red sequins. Find some. I got a little stick here somewhere. I can pick them up. Just want to get a couple of them. And some green ones. Oh, maybe I'll put some green ones on there. That might look cute. So do some red and some green. So that's 1, 2, 3. All right, we're going to do 6 total, I think. Okay, and then I'm just going to take my glue dots. I'm going to ball them up. Just kind of roll them onto on my little backer. And then I'm going to pick it up, pick the sequin up. Now it will give it some dimension. And I'm just going to randomly put those down. Now, you could also probably just stick the glue dot right on top, or the sequin right on top. It actually covers the whole sequin. Or the sequin covers the whole glue dot. So you could do either. If you roll it up though, it will actually give it a little bit of dimension. Okay, so there's those. And then I'll put the red ones. I think the hardest part is actually just picking them up. Okay, do we want that? Do we want to put another one in? Oh, I like that. So that kind of gives you an odd. So there you go, guys. This is our first project of the holiday card series for 2017. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, thank you for sticking around if you've been a subscriber for a while. I hope that this is the return. But I can guarantee you that I'll at least get a handful of projects out for Christmas. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Please give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and leave a comment if you have anything nice to say. Thanks. I'll see you soon.